You're listening to Make It Big, a podcast about all things e-commerce, created by BigCommerce.
Hello, and welcome to the Make It Big podcast. I'm Brent Bellum, CEO at BigCommerce, joined today by my friend Ryan Breslow, the founder of checkout service Bolt, one of the fastest growing companies in the world of e-commerce that just raised an incredible round of funding. I'm really excited about today's topic. Ryan, thanks for joining.
Brent, it's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. All right. So let's kick things off by letting the audience learn a little bit about you before we dive into the important world of checkout. Ryan, where did you grow up? Where do you live today?
Born and raised in Miami, Florida. I got exposure to commerce very early on. I started building e-commerce websites. I probably made my first BigCommerce website. It was called Memory Foam Doctor, and I made it when I was 15 on BigCommerce. Fun fact, so I've known the BigCommerce platform for a long time and went to the Bay Area for school and some tech starts, and then recently moved back here.
You're back in Florida, where you're from. How is Florida during pandemic times?
Well, it's different than the rest of the world. I'd say it's been more open. Whether you believe it's good or bad, it's been more open. And the city is very active.
And I know you've got some pretty cool personal interests and passions. Would you be willing to share one with those listening in?
My biggest passion outside of work is dance. So I do some house dancing, shuffling, and break dancing. And it is the way I take a break from work. And I've also started a nonprofit called The Movement, where we fund free dance classes for communities and after-school programs to teach as many people as possible how to dance.
That is awesome. I wish I were a better dancer. I learned that our Senior Vice President of Finance, Daniel Lentz, is a very active ballroom dancer along with his wife, which is another thing I tried once upon a time and loved when I did it. That's
too funny. We got to all go out dancing one night.
I don't think you would want to see me do that, but I would love to see you. All right, well, let's turn now to checkout. And I love this topic. I believe that this podcast and learning about checkout is really worth the time of every e-commerce merchant, because checkout is changing faster and for the better than at any point in the 23 odd years I've been involved in e-commerce checkouts. I mean, I've been in this area since 1999, and we're innovating faster now than ever before. Tell us, Ryan, how did you get started with Bolt? What was the origin story of the company?
Well, as I said, my first storefront was BigCommerce, and I'd been building e-commerce sites for a long time. I ran a web development agency that worked with a lot of clients. And I had also gotten into crypto really early on. I started the Stanford Bitcoin Group in 2013. I was thinking about the future of money, payments, commerce. I dropped out of school to focus on crypto. But then I was thinking more about payments, and I was like, wait a second. Why isn't there a checkout company? Or a company just dedicated to solving checkout and optimizing it and building a one-click network on top of it? And I had done my homework and realized how much conversion opportunity there was at this important layer, and decided to go ahead and be the first company to do it.
Very cool. What year was that?
2015. I remember it was like August of 2015. I had this aha moment, and I couldn't unsee this vision for a one-click checkout network and product for all the independent retailers. And the insight was simple. Amazon's had one-click since 1999, and the rest of the internet doesn't have one-click buy, doesn't have one-click returns and membership programs. And so Bolt is starting with one-click checkout, but is going to help merchants expand their network by connecting to other merchants and shoppers in a unified network so that there is no difference between an Amazon buying experience and anybody, no matter their size.
Let's go into detail. How does it actually work? What is the sort of consumer checkout experience with Bolt?
So the way Bolt works is simple. You install Bolt on your site, which, by the way, now can be done with 2 clicks with our new core partnership with BigCommerce. We've always had a partnership, but now we've done the work to marry our 2 technologies so you could turn it on instantly. And then once it's on, your BigCommerce checkout stays BigCommerce checkout, but it's just accelerated if our network can help. So the first 2 fields of checkout are email and phone. If either of those match a Bolt user on our network, we log them in for an accelerated checkout experience with all their information stored. The user has had to have opted into Bolt in the past. In addition, we put an opt-in at the end of the checkout for you just to register for Bolt accounts plus merchant site accounts. And so this increases registration rate of account enrollments and increases conversion rate. If Bolt is able to one-click somebody from our network, they see a 50% higher first-time conversion rate. More importantly, we find if someone has a one-click experience on your site, they're more likely to repurchase. And they have a 66% higher repurchase rate. So we're so excited to bring those benefits to the BigCommerce ecosystem.
So, in other words, you get an Amazon-like one-click experience, either as a consumer returning to that same merchant that you already bought from once without having to create an account and a password with that merchant, or any other merchant that's in the Bolt network that you land on. So think of that, an Amazon-like one-click experience everywhere you shop where Bolt is accepted. Is that accurate?
That's spot on. And I like how you called out for your customers too. For your customers, for getting the Bolt network, if they're coming to your site and you have Bolt installed, they can, without a password, create an account and have one-click repeat experiences. And then part 2, as you acutely said, Brett, you also benefit from the rest of the Bolt network. If you've seen anybody anywhere else, they also get the one-click experience.
I'm going to try for a second, Ryan, to put this in the context of the historical evolution of checkouts. And correct me if I go astray in sort of describing my understanding of it all. I really believe that there has been no major improvement until now in checkout experience in 20 years. Basically, the last 2 breakthroughs were the one you mentioned, which was Amazon's introduction of one-click, but they had a patent on that, and other retailers couldn't even copy it until that patent expired in 2017. And so in the absence of that, if a consumer anywhere on any site wanted to reuse his or her information, right? Not have to type in all over again, name, email address, phone number, shipping address, billing address, and credit card information. If you didn't want to type that in every time you checked out, you only had 2 choices. One is you could create an account, meaning with a username and password at each and every individual merchant where you wanted that experience again. But imagine you shop at 30 different merchants, and now you've got 30 different names and passwords out there that you need to remember, and all these different organizations that are holding your financial information, right? And theoretically protecting it. Or the other major innovation that was, again, 20 years ago was the first wallet. And PayPal, if not the first wallet, PayPal Express Checkout was really the winning wallet. And, I was there at the time that we created Express Checkout for merchant websites, off eBay. And for the last 20 years, there have been a lot of other wallets attempted, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Chase, Amazon Pay, Android Pay, Apple Pay. These are some of the many wallets out there, but they still have the same concept, which is to use a wallet, you have to create a username and a password and re-enter that, on each website you get to. And the breakthrough is fundamentally the end of the username and password era, and it's being replaced now by the two-factor authentication era. The major thing that you've done differently, and it's like what Amazon does, quite frankly, is you're using two-factor authentication. And when somebody lands on one of your websites, I'm sure you're getting machine ID, but you can really take that, plus you can take email address and or phone number, right? And understand and recognize a user and not make that user have to log in with a Bolt-specific username and password, or even worse, a merchant-specific one. You're recognizing the user. And of course, you've got your risk models. And so if you need to go in and strong authentify someone because you're like, oh, we know this email address, but we don't recognize the machine ID, or we recognize the machine ID, but they're logging in from a different location than we've seen before. Or, oh, this is a high-risk transaction. You've got all the different ways that you can say, well, my models either tell me I'm certain this is the same user, or I'm going to strong authenticate, which of course you can do either with a code to the mobile phone through the phone number you have on file, or something to an email address. You've got ways to strong authenticate, again, using two-factor. So in summary, this era where usernames and passwords on a merchant-specific or on a wallet basis, that era is now being supplanted by an era where two-factor can enable far better checkout experiences, and in some ways even stronger, security based on that. Have I described things accurately?
I love that description, Brent. And one of the reasons I love talking with you is you know so much about the history of this space, having been a pioneer of so many things, including Express Checkout at PayPal. And to everyone listening, Brent has been a huge inspiration in this business, and an incredible advisor that's helped us navigate to making the product even better and better. So yes, that's exactly right. We do all of the authentication, magic, security, analysis to make the front end experience for the shopper magic. So whenever you go to check out Bolt, you can go to bolt.com/customers and go do one transaction, go do another. And BigCommerce merchants, you'll all have access to videos that take you through the demo. But to the end shopper, it just works magically without passwords and with minimal friction.
Now, of course, one of the things that seems to be going on are network effects, right? The more consumers you have in your network, the higher the percentage of experiences on a merchant's checkout are going to get that one-click accelerated experience. And, of course, any customer going back to that merchant the second time on Bolt is one of those getting the fast experience and being in the network. How big is the consumer network today at Bolt, and how fast is it growing?
We have crossed 10 million shoppers, so it's in the teens right now. If you're listening, depending on when you listen to this, it may be a lot bigger. In the next 18 months, we should cross over 100 million shoppers. And so we're seeing merchants who install Bolt, and day one, anywhere from 5 to 15% of their shoppers can one-click, even with none of the pre-existing shoppers creating accounts there, right? So day one, we can accelerate 5 to 15% of your shoppers to be one-clicking on your site. And then as our network grows and as your own user base grows, that percentage climbs up to whereby we now have some merchants where 50% of all of their transactions are one-click.
Yeah, over time, of course, all of your repeat customers are going to get that experience.
Exactly.
And all the consumers that have experienced Bolt on any other merchant checkout. So as your merchant presence grows, so will that network. But the whole world of merchants don't have to be using Bolt for the whole world of consumers to get that experience. That consumers just have to hit one Bolt merchant one time, and the next time they get that everywhere they shop that uses Bolt.
That's exactly right. So the network's growing really fast, and we see us as the democratizing force for commerce, which BigCommerce is as well. BigCommerce is the democratizing force, giving you all of your commerce infrastructure to scale and run your business. And we see Bolt as providing the shopper network, which is critical. You need both, right? For everyone to stand on their own against the Goliaths like Amazon, you need both. And we're so, that's why we think this partnership is such an incredible opportunity for us all.
Now, I'm interested in what this does for conversion. So if you're a merchant not using Bolt or a two-factor type checkout, and you're on BigCommerce or maybe some other platform, there's a very good chance that your checkout experience is a one-page checkout experience. It's been, heavily tested and validated to have a much better conversion rate than the historic 5-page plus checkout experiences, but it's still a one-page checkout experience. With Bolt, what type of conversion improvement have you measured for merchants?
There's a few parts to that. So let's talk about your local account creation rates. When you have a password, we're seeing that a low single-digit percentage of shoppers, 1 to 4%, are creating accounts on the average site. So now with our passwordless checkbox-based approach, we're converting 50 to 60% of shoppers into accounts. So we're seeing up to 30x higher account registration rates. Additionally, now we layer in the network, right? Those are just your account creation rate. With the network, when we can one-click someone on your site, we're seeing 50% higher first-time conversion rates and 66% higher likelihood to repurchase rates. And so a lot of tools in e-commerce, are able to increment by 1% or 2%. But this network is extremely powerful and delivers extremely powerful conversion benefits.
Is there still a reason for the consumer on a Bolt merchant to create a username and password? Is there still a reason for them to create an account? Or is that no longer necessary? Because if I go back to that merchant and I need to look up my order or get customer support, there's an alternate way to get into my account using two-factor, and I don't need to formally create an account. How does that work on a Bolt merchant?
We're working with the BigCommerce team to mirror the accounts, merge them together with a product we have called Bolt SSO. So when a user clicks login on your site, they just type in their email or phone, enter the code, and they're in without a password. So
the code that they get in their mobile phone text,
and they could also say, I want an email code instead. They could pick one or the other. And so this gives the same frictionlessness that we provide to checkout to your login. So users can log in, check the status of their order without having to remember a password.
As a consumer, I like that because then I don't have to create and remember a password at that merchant. And I've got a way to get in that's nicely authenticated to check out my order.
That's exactly right. And we're just seeing that, passwords are the norm, but they cause a lot of friction because people might remember password for Amazon, but for the rest of us, it's hard to remember a lot of passwords everywhere you shop. And so everyone's just clicking the continuous guest button. It's like 98% of people just continuous guest. Now we found they would like an account and they would like to come in and track their order and they would like to be a member, but they don't want to go through the friction. And so now with our passwordless technology, 30 times more people are registering for accounts.
Super cool. Who's the target merchant customer or the best fit in terms of like how big are they? What countries would they be located in? What e-commerce platforms are they using? Or what payment processor they would want to use?
We're building Bolt for every e-commerce merchant. So predominantly US, Canada, Europe, but we're expanding internationally as fast as we can. The great thing here, which Brent, you and I spent a lot of time on, which is the payment side, you don't have to switch your payment processor. So a lot of other shopping carts may be doing one click, but you have to switch to their payments, right? Here, you preserve your payment processor. So if you're using Braintree or Adyen or CyberSource or Authorize.net, whoever you're using, you keep, and it just works out of the box with Bolt.
Can you work with any payment processor or gateway that's integrated into BigCommerce, for example, or is it maybe like the top 5 or 6 that you're compatible with?
It will be the top handful, and I think we will be expanding that over time. So when we publish more on the product, we'll share which ones it's compatible with. We've built Bolt to handle any. So it's just, theoretically, it could work with any, but practically speaking, we're working with your team on specifying which ones we're going to support out of the gate.
Cool. What's the cost of Bolt? How do you make money?
We have a radical approach to pricing that I don't think anyone's done before, which is we only make money when you make money. So we used to charge on every transaction because of all the benefits. Now we only charge when we can one-click someone on your site. So if we recognize someone on our network and can one-click them on your site with all the 50% conversion benefits, 66% repurchase benefits, or all the benefits of one click from the network, we charge a network fee. Once the Bolt network grows above 50 million shoppers, the network fee is 2%. But merchants who sign up before 50 million shoppers, so if you sign up soon, in the coming months, you get in at a 1% grandfathered in free for the next 3 years. And so 1% for 50% conversion rate increase, 66% higher repurchase, and we only charge it when we can one-click somebody from our network.
Got it. So in essence, you power a merchant's checkout for free. Any transactions that are normal consumer transactions, not getting the one-click experience, there's no charge for what you do. The merchant's just paying whatever their already negotiated payment processing costs are with their payment processor. You don't get in the middle of that. But if a consumer's using the one-click experience, so the higher conversion, that's when your incremental cost is introduced.
That's exactly right. And that incremental cost doesn't apply to people who create accounts using our technology. So if you, a merchant, have someone who's shopping on you that's never used Bolt before, that person's grandfathered in for free for you for all their future purchases, even if they're using a one-click. So we give you the passwordless one-click technology for free. We only charge if our network can help.
Yeah, so a merchant who says, well, I don't want to be paying you for consumers that I give you, your model is that they don't.
That's exactly right.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. Are there any things you're thinking about doing that would help decrease the cost of payments in checkout? Most merchants, if you're small, you're paying 2.9% for credit cards. If you're big, maybe you're paying as low as 2.1 or 2.2%, because interchange on credit cards, at least in the United States, is quite high. Are there any things you're doing with other payment methods like ACH, which are bank-based payments in the US, or bank-based payments in Europe, or other alternative payment methods that would help a merchant reduce their cost? And in some ways, like if I'm a merchant and I'm like, I can get my payment processing costs down because Bolt is creating an experience that maximizes consumer choice of lower cost methods, well, then I save money, right? That would help pay for any of Bolt's fees. Are you doing any of that?
Absolutely. So one of the things our merchants work with us on is reducing their payments cost. Because we connect to so many, we make it one click to turn on a new one. But we have big aspirations to take that a step further. And as you said, Brent, we're working on ACH. We're working on bank-based payments domestically and internationally. And these payments can cost 1/10 of what a traditional payment can cost. And so because, we're not a payments company, we partner with merchants to help reduce costs of payments. And so that is definitely something that we're working on in a big way.
Very cool. I'm excited about that innovation because, I see the cost of payments, at least in the United States, continuously creeping up. And I would like to see innovation in the checkout, among our partners like Bolt that reverses that. The same is not true, by the way, outside of the United States. In Europe, where I ran PayPal for 4 years, there's been both a lot of innovation and a lot of regulation that keeps the cost of payments down, at least for larger merchants. And the same is true in Australia. We need to take a competitive approach, and I want to see more innovation and more competition, right? So that merchants don't keep seeing that cost of payments go higher. And you can really influence that potentially because you're running the checkout experience for your customers.
Exactly. Like we've deliberately decided we're not going to be payments focused. We're going to be conversion focused. And that allows us to be a partner to the merchant because there are other companies in the past who've tried to do checkout, but they're payments companies, right? And so you think of a Stripe, but you can only use Stripe, or Google tried to do this and other companies have tried to do this, but they had payments objectives. And even there's another shopping cart who does this. They had payments objectives. So I think where you and I align philosophically, Brent, is really being partners with the merchant, not having ulterior objectives. Bolt is big on conscious culture. We've published all of our learnings on conscious.org. So we're all about being super conscious and transparent about what our motives are. Our motives are to make merchants as successful as possible and to build the biggest network of shoppers. And everything else, we're here for the independents.
Awesome. The other component of Amazon One-Click we haven't talked about yet is that not only did Amazon introduce a one-click experience for a shopping cart, they also did it for individual products, meaning there's a one-click button on an individual product page. And so, you could be on Amazon and shopping for a $1.99 thing of glue or tape or tissue paper or something, right? And they'll let you just hit one-click checkout buy now on the product detail page. Does Bolt also do that?
We do. Yeah, product page checkout, product page buy now buttons. We have all of those available, and they will be a part of the package with BigCommerce. So that when you turn it on, it won't by default be on those pages, but you can embed some code and absolutely put those buttons on your pages.
Very cool. And do you do anything to then aggregate individual one-item transactions to save the merchant either shipping costs or payment processing costs? So, for example, if on average, a consumer on a merchant's website, when they see the option to one-click purchase on a product detail page, on average, they won't just be one and done. On average, maybe they'll buy 1.x number of individual items, or maybe they'll have one item that they buy individually and then they'll fill out a cart and make a separate one. Do you do anything to then aggregate those purchases so that the merchant saves on shipping costs and saves on payment processing costs?
Yeah, so the first thing that we're rolling out very soon is upsells. So once you buy something, you'll be shown other products within that store that are recommended upsells. And so that's something you as a merchant can turn on as a flag, as a feature. We don't today have pooling of payments and shipping and all of that. That's not something we do. But Brent, it's something that you and I should talk about.
Cool. Yeah, that would be, something that saves the merchant money if that happens, which would be cool.
Totally.
All right. So we've sort of covered how Bolt compares to a legacy or a typical checkout, even if it's optimized for one page. Ryan, I'd love to know how your checkout experience compares to the one-size-fits-all solution from Shopify. They have an out-of-the-box checkout that has some similar components built in. How is Bolt different and potentially better than Shopify's proprietary checkout?
So there's a bunch of ways. So first is you can actually have wallets within our one-click. So ShopPay only works with credit cards. Bolt is going to work with PayPal, with Apple Pay, with Google Pay, all of the wallets because of our payment agnostic approach. So it's much more inclusive of options for the consumers. That means it's much more international for the merchant. It also means you own your accounts. So when they take over, an account or payment, the user can't log into your site. You don't technically own the account. Bolt has architected our entire system so that it's a shared ownership. You also own the account, right? Fourth, you don't have to switch payment processors. You keep autonomy in terms of your payment processor approach. And 5, it's better. Customer experience.
Yeah, I look at it and I kind of believe that Shopify's interests are heavily misaligned with merchants because Shopify, if they process a credit card transaction, they're the payment processor, right? So first of all, they process a credit card transaction, they're going to make their 2.9% and 30 cents in the US or Canada. And if the transaction instead were to go to a payment processor of the merchant's choice, they don't get that revenue. And so none of their built-in checkout experiences like this work the same way, right? They want to force the merchant to use them for payments. And then in a choice between a high-cost payment method like credit cards at 2.9% versus another one that could be high cost or low cost, but if Shopify doesn't actually process the payment and it can't get that 2.9%, then they're going to discourage potentially those payment methods, even if it's in the consumer's and or the merchant's best interest. In contrast to all of that, Bolt doesn't make money by powering the payments. Your partners do. And so your interests are aligned. You want your merchants to be able to use the payment partners that best serve their business. You want to figure out in the checkout how to give the consumer the best converting choice, and you want to help lower the cost, all of which because your interests are aligned with the merchants and the consumers, and it's about maximizing conversion. And if you can minimize costs for the merchant too, then that's a win. Have I described that correctly?
Exactly. I've always said incentives define behavior. They define products. My grandfather always told me, follow the money. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. So we've been very conscious and thoughtful on how we design Bolt as a product and as a business model to make sure that we're maximally aligned with our partners and with our merchants. And so that's what we've done. And, we have no ulterior motives. We want to build a huge network to level the playing field. We want you to join the network so that your shoppers also join the network. We're only going to charge you when we add value from our network. And we're going to drive a ton of conversion benefits for the entire e-commerce ecosystem.
Great. One other question about the consumer experience. If I land on a merchant website, and let's say it's a new website for me, and I then start the checkout experience, I type in my email address and or phone number, and you recognize that consumer from another place. Do you surprise the consumer with the text that goes to their phone, or is there a way where the consumer knows, oh, this is a Bolt checkout and they're about to send me a text to see if I want to check out in one click?
After they type in if they're recognized, we will pop up a window overhead informing them that they will receive a code. And they could always cancel out of that and continue with the checkout if for some reason they don't want to use Bolt.
All right, great. All right, Ryan, I think you may have already answered this pretty well, but just to make it clear, how does a merchant get set up with Bolt? Let's say you're on BigCommerce. Do you need any technical skills to switch over to a Bolt checkout? How long does it take to do this? Or is it really easy? Is it already pre-integrated?
Super easy. It's already pre-integrated. BigCommerce and Bolt teams did all the hard work. So now you go into your dashboard. There should be an area to turn on. You go to your checkout settings. You could turn on one-click checkout powered by Bolt. And then you go to a form. It should have all your information already pre-filled. You just click submit. You enter your payment processor API key, and you're ready to go. And so it could literally be done in under a minute, no technical knowledge required.
Awesome. That's cool. So Ryan, which platforms have that same pre-integrated experience with Bolt, and which platforms, in essence, work best because they've got the best integration?
So BigCommerce to date is the only platform that has a pre-integrated experience where you could instantly turn it on. And so other platforms we have plugins for. We support almost every other platform, but it does require technical work.
Cool. I like that differentiation for BigCommerce. And as you said earlier, if you're already using any of those leading payment processors for payments, you don't have to switch away, right? You can keep using the same ones.
Keep using the same ones, fill in a form, it turns on, and you even get your first 90 days free. So no network fee. We'll show you how much money Bolt has made you in the last 90 days, how much you would have paid in fees. So the ROI is explicit and super clear so that if you continue past the trial, you know exactly what you're walking into.
Awesome. 2 final questions for you. The first one is there a question I didn't ask you that you, or something that you want the audience to know that we haven't covered already? Can you think of anything, or have we done a good job covering the ground you wanted to cover?
Well, I want the audience to know that I think BigCommerce is the best hosted platform for sophisticated, up-and-coming to large e-commerce merchants. And, you know, we've had this partnership now for what, Brent? Almost 4 years. And, you know, between our partnership, Bolt helped powered about 8% of transactions over Cyber Monday already, and that's without our embedded integration. So this new integration is a huge leap forward, not just for our partnership, but for the entire space. We're completely breaking new ground. There's nothing like this that's existed before, and we're blazing a brand new trail.
Awesome. I did not set you up for that, but I love that answer. And then final question. Is there a future innovation in checkout, say something that you know is going to happen in the next year or two, that you think is the next big deal improvement that you're willing to kind of share with folks today?
There's a ton of opportunity for upselling products, cross-selling, easily enabling subscriptions, easily enabling crypto, purchasing payments and NFTs, and membership-based programs and loyalty. And Bolt is going to be working closely with BigCommerce on all of those things over the course of the next year.
Right on. That's a ton of innovation coming. So, in other words, it's not a one-time improvement, a static improvement you get if you get onto Bolt. You're then also going to inherit all the future innovations that you build in as options to the checkout.
Exactly. We have full-time technical teams on both sides just innovating and integrating all of that innovation into the Bolt plus BigCommerce program. So you're going to get and should expect constant innovation, constant upgrades. We should be delivering new things together for a very long time.
I love it. Well, I've learned a lot from this conversation, Ryan. I hope that our listeners have as well. This is such an exciting area of e-commerce right now. Again, I think faster and better innovation occurring today than has occurred at any other point in the 23 odd years I've been in this area. You're leading this innovation. Congrats on your success. Congrats on the enormous funding round. You're very well backed for a long and prosperous future ahead. And we hope that we, as your partner and our customers on both of our solutions, can really benefit from the innovation in the years ahead. Good luck with everything, and thanks for joining the Make It Big podcast.
Such a pleasure, Brent. Cannot wait for what we're going to do together, you, me, and all BigCommerce merchants.
Right on.
Thanks for listening to the Make It Big podcast. Want even more insights and expert advice? Experience our Make It Big conference, now available on demand. You'll get e-commerce tips and strategies from global thought leaders like Mark Cuban, Ann Handley, and Neil Patel, plus BigCommerce partners like Google, TikTok, and more. Watch today at bigcommerce.com/makeitbig.